Episode 204 of the HHH Racing Podcast is brought to you by Hawthorne Racecourse. Hawthorne Racecourse, Chicagoland's hometown track. And now, let's start episode 204.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 204 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host for this evening, at least for the early portion of the show, Pete Visco. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to move on from the Breeders' Cup a little bit for at least this week. There's going to be some more talk next week, which we'll fill you in on a little bit later. But this week, we're actually going to cover the late pick 5 sequence at Woodbine. It actually turned out to be a pretty nice sequence, couple graded stakes, but we'll get into the details a little bit more later. And then after we do our pick 5s, we want to just make sure you remember that don't hang up, or I should say hang up, don't turn off the show. Howard is going to come on close to around 9 o'clock Eastern, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after, to talk about the Hawthorne pick 4, the late pick 4 on Friday with our special Hawthorne always guest these days, Jim Miller, which is always awesome. I think they're doing a special $25,000 guaranteed pick 4, but they'll get into all the details. I don't want to mess any of them up. So stick around even after myself and my co-hosts go over our pick 5s. Stick around and stay for that portion of the show as well. So before we get into it, we're going to go over our normal administrative junk that we have to do. First of all, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And we've had a few questions lately about what subscribing on YouTube actually means. It's not a subscription like that you have to pay for, like some subscriptions. All it really is when you click on subscribe, it puts our show in your sort of subscription section. And then when you look at your feed in YouTube, it'll actually bring our shows up. It won't notify you. If you want to be notified of when a new show pops up, that's when you hit that little bell icon, and that's for notifications. Subscription is just, hey, I like this show. You let YouTube know that it's a show that you like because they could see our subscription numbers, and then it'll be in your feed and it'll be in your subscription bucket. So again, there's no fee, there's no charge. It's really just clicking the button, and then it really doesn't change your life at all. So please, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because again, it tells YouTube that this is a show you like, this is a show you enjoy, and the higher our numbers get, the better it is for us, the better it is for the show, and the more exposure that we get. Also, when you're watching each show, click that little thumbs up, hit that like button. Again, it tells YouTube this is a show that you really like. And also, if you're watching and you don't comment, if you're watching or you're watching after the fact, you could always put comments underneath the video player in the comment section. We read them, we respond to them. So if you can't make the live show and be in the live comments, please do that as well. We're always interested to hear what people think about the sequence or any question. It doesn't really matter what it is. Next, let's talk about, usually Howard's Twitter handle is up, but basically the Twitter handle for our show is @HKravets. So @HKRAVETS, that's the Twitter handle for the show. Again, please follow us on there. We always try, and especially on race days, we try and have a lot of lively conversation. So definitely do that as well. If you prefer, like sometimes you do, if you prefer audio instead of the video, please, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor, listen, subscribe, rate, review, do all of those things, because obviously if you can't make the YouTube show, we appreciate you following and listening to us in any way you possibly can. Next, we're going to talk quickly about the power picks. Now, the power picks were huge for the Breeders' Cup. We had our Breeders' Cup special edition where myself, Howard, Kyle, Paul all contributed. Big long write-ups, but it doesn't end there. The power picks go on every weekend, every year. It covers at least 2 cards on generally Saturdays. I guess depending upon the weekend, it could cover a different day, but at least 2 cards, and you'll get ABC grids, you'll get spot plays, price plays, and you'll also get some stats of the day that we've seen sometimes. So it's great, regardless of post Breeders' Cup, no matter what the track is. Like today, our Woodbine card that we're covering, that'll be on the Power Picks. So please subscribe. And if you want to subscribe, under the video player, there's a link to Patreon. That's where you can subscribe. This subscription you actually have to pay for, not like the YouTube one. And then if we'll go into it, actually on our website, hhhracingpodcast.com, there's also a link to the Patreon site, and there's also examples of our Power Picks. So if you're curious about what's contained in the Power Picks, including what we just put up, I put up our most recent Breeders' Cup Power Picks, which is a blown out version. If you're curious about what's contained in them and you want to see some past versions before you subscribe, they're on there. The last 15 are always up there. So please take a look there. That'll give you a hint as to whether you want to subscribe or not. I think Howard, when he comes on later, is going to talk about probably next week's show. But next Tuesday, he's going to have a great show with Howard's going to be on with the past 3 BCBC champions, Matt Miller, Drew Coatney, or I shouldn't say, and Marshall Graham. So we're going to have 3 BCBC champions on there talking about their BCBC strategy, some of the mathematics behind it. But Howard will get into it in a little bit more details. So with all that, let's actually bring on my co-host tonight, and we'll get into the Woodbine Pick 5. First, my man, Paul, Saratoga Special Halloran. Hey, Paul, what's going on? And
hey, Pete, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. And Kyle, the man behind the champ, Roscoe. What's going on, my man?
Nothing. Good, glad to be here. What's going on, Pete?
Not too much, man. Just hanging in there. So what do you guys? So post Paul, I know you were in the no sleep till Breeders' Cup. So what are you? I wanted to ask this sort of a general question. After Breeders' Cup, we're sort of for the baseball fans, we're sort of in the dog days of horse racing a little bit until maybe there's a couple big ones coming up, but for the most part, it slows down a bit. Do you still keep trugging along and with the same sort of wagering? The same sort of, do you still handicap the weekends or do you take a little break? What do you normally do at the end of the Breeders' Cup?
Well, the timing works out well for me, Pete, because I think, as I've mentioned, I'm a basketball official. So my season, my college season literally started this past Tuesday.
Okay.
I had my first game Tuesday. So I kind of transitioned to that. And then, I will still play. I mean, I'm going to definitely play the stuff that we talk about because I don't believe in shooting my mouth off on the air and not spending my own money on the picks. So I will definitely be
being pissed if it hits. And being pissed if it hits.
That too. I would say, a little bit of a freshening, as they say with the horses. But, once you get Christmas is coming, once that Gulfstream Championship meet starts, it starts in early December, but it cranks up around the first of the year. And, obviously Malibu Day, opening day at Santa Anita is always a benchmark, December 26th. I've started to follow Oaklawn a little more the last few years, and that starts early December. So there won't be a lot of downtime.
No, and I assume doing the show does just keep you in the groove because we do have to handicap at least one card a week, if not a little bit more. Kyle, what about you? Same, or you just sort of kick back a little bit?
I mean, I can, but there's one thing that money doesn't sleep. That's the best thing, or my money will go to sleep. Basically, is kind of the way I'm thinking about it. But I mean, I mean, with what we have to handicap every single weekend for this type of show is, like you said, it does keep us in the groove. It keeps us, freshening up. And then, like we're looking at Woodbine this weekend, and who knows what we're going to look at, the next coming weekends, kind of spread out the tracks a little bit to kind of get, a little bit, not expertise, but get, dip your feet in the water a little bit elsewhere other than just your normal New York and Kentucky circuits.
Yeah, I think that's good because I know some of these tracks, I only, maybe I'll pick them up on a random big day, whatever their biggest days are of the year. But that's not the way. I mean, I know I'm at fault of not following a meet long enough. So sort of getting a feel for how the jockeys are doing, how the track's playing, how the trainers are doing. And even if we're not doing that, at least you're checking in every once in a while and saying, hey, look at this guy. I mean, I know this one's doing something or this one's doing something. So it helps.
I'm telling you, that's why I loved, when Arlington was so close, being going there every single day, it really does pay dividends when you pay attention to an entire meet.
Yeah.
And you keep track of, how the track's playing, how these jockeys are doing, who's hot, who's cold, and stuff like that. But, like times like this where there isn't a whole lot going on, it gives you a little bit of leeway to bounce around a little bit.
Yeah, I actually found that with the tournaments a little bit. If you play them during the week, you get a feel for sort of how the tracks play during the week and not just on the big days when the best horses are there, and it can kind of skew it a bit.
Right.
All right, well, let's jump in. So we got this. This is actually a pretty interesting sequence. I'm glad we were doing this one. So I'm going to go to, let me bring up, first of all, we'll bring up the first race 6. Maiden special weight. Nice purses, too. I don't know if you looked at the purses, but maiden special weight, 126,800, 6.5 furlongs on the all-weather. And we have the favorite on this one. This is actually a nicely spread out race, but the favorite is the number 4 Speed Trap for Carol and Kimura, which is a fantastic combination. So I guess on this one, we're going to start, Paul, we'll start with you here. And you actually started with the 4 Speed Trap. So we'll just jump right into that one. What made you land on this one? These young, not so frequently raced 2-year-olds we have.
Well, the first thing that jumped off the page at me, Pete, is, we expect to see 6-figure 2-year-olds at Saratoga and New York and California, but look at the 4 $300,000 yearling, the 5 a $410,000, and the 6 $230,000. So this, I don't know how good they are. There's some expensive horse flesh.
I was surprised by that too. I didn't expect that either. As I was going through, I was like, man, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that they're here. I don't know how to gauge that all the time, but you're right.
So I thought that the 4 took money in her debut.
Nice.
Broke from the rail, which I think is always challenging for a first-time starter or any lightly raced horse, but especially a first-time starter. Looks like she completely walked out of the gate, was running late. Better post, second start. Josie Carroll is one of the top trainers up there. This is a 28% connection, her and the jockey. So, and then the $300,000 price tag, I put it all together and that's where I landed.
No, that makes all sense. And actually people can see some of my notes in there, which is a sneak peek into my stupid thinking half the time, but you can see that Josie Carroll, 25%, 2-year-old second career starters on synthetic in sprint races. So, I mean, Josie Carroll has some pretty good percentages in a lot of cases, but I think this one is sort of a deserving favorite after the trip it got. You could only see it sort of moving forward from that one. So, Paul, we'll go to, and then Kyle has this one on top, but I'll let you touch on it real quick, Paul. The 8, Mischief Lily. What sort of brought you to this one?
Well, you got 3 Cassies in the race, so we all know how he does up there. I thought this was the best. He's 21% with this move, turf to synthetic. One thing about Mark, regardless of where he's running, he's not afraid to run the horse on what may or may not be the wrong surface. He'll often start horses on dirt whom he knows is going to end up on turf and vice versa. Looked like this one, he gave her 3 shots on turf, and now he's going to synthetic. Some might say, well, that's because she wasn't that good on turf, and that's a fair statement. But, the 71 buyer on turf last race looks competitive, even though I know we're going to synthetic here. That's by far the top number in the race. So him and Husbands are a good combo, and I just took the 8 as what I thought was the best of the 3 Cassies.
Okay. Kyle, what about you? You had the 8 on top in this one. What were your thoughts?
3 things. I mean, that's Paul touched on it with Cassie's numbers at 21. He wins at 21% from turf to the move from turf to synthetic, and 21% at first time synthetic with horses. So that's one. And if you click on the dam for me, Pete, if you would,
Sure.
The breeding, this mare ran only basically on synthetic current. She had 2 races on turf, 1 in the dirt, all not very good. All her wins came on the synthetic track, trained by Mike Maker, actually. So just noticing, and then if you keep going through a family tree, it's a lot of synthetic. And her Progeny 7 showed it yet. Spicetown obviously is not, but the Grand Dam, I believe, and this is the same reason I had the 7 in second, was a lot of just obviously Into Mischief was all synthetic as well. So just a lot of breeding for the synthetic, and I like the cutback. Last one ran a 71 at a -16th at the turf, and we all know it was on the inner turf at Woodbine actually. So that configuration matches the synthetic. I just like the cutback. I think it's going to be good with Mark Cassidy and Patrick Husbands up.
No, for sure. And I mean, anytime you can get that combo, like Paul mentioned, it's definitely quality. Then you have in second the 7, Be Like Lee, first time starter for another Mike Cassie. So you're going with the Cassies here. What about this one? I see a couple of nice works there too. I don't know if that was part of it.
It definitely is. I mean, working well for Cassie is always a really nice thing to see. 7, I mean, and with his 2-year-old first-time starters at Woodbine on the synthetic, he wins 17% of the time. So it's not like he's a complete slouch by any means. And if you actually click on the dam again, this again just ran super well in synthetic in her career, all the way up to 5, and most of it is sprinting on the synthetic. So I just really in this race, I'm just looking for fresh faces. The 2 races that kind of showed up really didn't excite me by any means at all. The only one that I did want out of those races was the 4, just based on that trip last time. But out of everyone else in a race like this, I just kind of just wanted really just a fresh face to put on top and in second.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in these races, that's the way to go, just because they haven't shown you their warts yet. So you take a shot and you hope they come out. And this one's bred well, and it has a great trainer and, good jockey. Actually, let's jump to I know we talked about the 4 on the favorite. So you have that one. So I guess Paul has the 6 in third. I have the 6 in top. This is Victorious Tappet from Josie Carroll, another Josie Carroll. Paul, I'll let you go real quick first, even though it's my top choice. What'd you like about this one? First time starter, like you said, decent purchase price. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, purchase price, sire. Obviously, the Tappets can run on anything. Josie's numbers with both first timers, with 2-year-olds on synthetic and sprints. She's pretty much you can't get too far below 20% no matter what category you hit. The only thing is, and I did put the horse third, but you may have the right idea, Pete, because a filly like this, you might have a more likelihood of having her win or not being around, right? Figuring she might just fire right away. But so you picked her, Pete, so you should tell us why she's going to win.
No, and you could see, again, a lot of it was just statistically based because, I mean, you do like to tap it and out of a Victory Gallop mare, but, I had Josie Carroll 20%, 80% in the money, 2-year-old first-time starters on synthetic in 2022. So again, at 6-1, even if you're just getting this horse on the board, I think it's got a shot to win if you think it can hit the board. And then the dam side, 42% win, 62% in the top 2 in synthetic sprints. And then the Carroll Contreras combo, 33% wins, first-time starters on synth. So there's just a lot of statistical evidence. And with a first-time starter, you don't really have a ton more than that to go by. So I really like this one. And actually, I was unsure. I handicapped this one without the odds, without the morning line, and thought this one potentially could be the morning line favorite. And it turned out that it wasn't. So I was pretty happy with that. And then last, I'll just say.
Well, I think you watched the board, Pete.
True.
Excuse me. I think you bring up a good point. This is the type of horse that you do want to watch the board. And, with it being the first leg, you do have that advantage. The only thing you brought up, the Victory Gallop, Pete, and I'm looking now at the works, 4 consecutive 5 furlong works. There's a good chance that 6.5 furlongs might not be nearly long enough for this filly.
That was definitely my concern, which is why it wasn't like I would look at it as any sort of single or anything. I mean, I probably wouldn't with the first timer unless it was a monster anyway. So I also had the 5 in third, nothing big to go with there. It was just, it popped a nice buyer when it moved to the synth. And then even the sire side, how was okay, but it's better routing. But I just figured, hey, this one maybe just took to the synthetic when it got on there. It's a $410,000 purchase, so it may have some, and there's a little bit of speed. There's not a ton of speed in this race, so I'm not really sure how the pace is going to work out, but I guess we'll see. So let's move on, though. We'll move to the 7th. The 7th, we have our first race, Grade 3, the Maple Leaf Stakes. It's purse 150,000, a mile and a quarter on the all weather, which is pretty awesome. And we have the favorite all the way on the outside in the 11 hole, Transient, for Safi Joseph and Jose Ortiz at 3-1, which actually we're going to see again, I think, in the next race. So there's going to be a common theme here. So in this one, we'll start with you, Kyle, this time. You have the 6. Money for Row is actually yours. So let's talk through what made you land on this horse, and you're actually getting a nice morning line price on it.
Yeah, and I like the way Paul thinks because I see Paul.
You and Paul in lockstep. I love that.
Well, I'm just again going back on back numbers here for this filly. I mean, you can see it's just 5 straight ungraded stake races, one at a mile and a quarter back in August of 21. But she's ran. The last race wasn't very good. Again, that was in the EP Taylor and obviously Rougier, Moira. We all know where they went in their next start. So I'm not holding that against her. Just again, probably, pretty too good of company there. Going back to the Dance Smart at Woodbine at a mile and a 16th, ran a really nice race behind Wakanaka, who came back to win the race on the last race on Breeders' Cup Saturday, I believe.
Yep.
So again,
Correct.
just racing in really good company. Has back numbers for the Sin that can be many competitive here, and just sitting a very nice tactical speed trip. I feel like this horse can definitely catch a good price.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I'll get to you, Paul, because you had this one on top as well. But one thing I noticed was this horse has run well, sort of switching surfaces. Now it's back on the turf, but this horse is just pretty versatile. I mean, it bounces back and forth and just runs, and it gives its race every time. And obviously now we're taking a little bit step back in class. What were your thoughts, Paul? What made you land on this one on top?
Yeah, as Kyle so eloquently pointed out, the company lines are good. I don't think the horse is going to be 3-1, by the way, Kyle, with those 2 grade 2s and a grade 1 sitting there at the top of the PPs. But I do think that not only did this filly run in those races, but, she was fairly competitive. That Wakanaka ran a huge race. One of the guys I was with, Bob Mullins, had that horse pretty good and had to wait a long time. But once she got rolling, the EP Taylor race is a throwout. Those are Breeders' Cup horses, although neither ran pretty much a step in the Breeders' Cup, just an FYI, because I use both of them. But, yeah, I think, Kevin Attard is right up at the top of the Woodbine trainers. Stein is a good jockey. It's a Munnings. As you pointed out, Pete, if you look at her running lines, if you go down to the last 2 times she ran on synthetic, she was right there. And all the way down to last year, she ran 4th in the Queen's Plate, which is probably the biggest synthetic race of the year up there.
Yep.
And that was last year, but still. So I think she's got a lot going for her, and in what is a pretty competitive field.
No, I agree. And actually, what I ineloquently was trying to say earlier was this horse has shown a proclivity to go from turf to synthetic and do well. So it has the win here, it has the second here. So it's actually shown the ability to bounce from surface to surface and even go back to the synth. So I sort of like that. Kyle, we'll go back to you with your second place horse quick. We have the number 3, Charges Dropped at 4-1 for Michael McCarthy and Kimura. What do you have here? What's your thoughts on this one?
I just really I don't know if this filly really wants the distance, and obviously Lemon Drop Kid horses are very nice on the turf. Just that last race at Presque Isle was just very nice. Again, granted, a little bit lesser company, especially going down to Presque Isle. But, they take Kimura to Presque Isle to win on this filly in a pretty convincing fashion, and then bringing her back up to Woodbine to run in the spot like this. Pop's a really nice buyer, showing that this horse can really, run well in synthetic as well as the turf. It's just, it made me more of a hunch play, just running with McCarthy here, just connections. But that last race was too good to pass up for me, especially at a price, hopefully around the 4 to 5-1.
Yeah. And you should get
Kyle,
that.
you'd
probably.
almost have to think.
Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, Pete. Kyle,
No,
you'd
go ahead.
almost have to think that McCarthy might have had this race in mind.
Yeah.
And because remember, before Presque Isle, the horse was running on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, I don't think he shipped her east specifically to run in an optional claimer 40 grand at Presque Isle.
Right.
It's almost like he had a race like this picked out and said, okay, let's get her a start on the East Coast somewhere, or Mid-Atlantic, as it were, and then ship up there. It'd be, this is where it's a lot easier if this is in Saratoga and in the morning you can just say, hey, Mr. Trainer, sir, what were your plans with this horse? But you know what I'm saying, Kyle? He didn't ship to Presque Isle just to run in that race.
No,
anyway,
and I'm gonna use my 100% here. I 100% agree with you, Paul, that just racing on the turf on the West Coast, and all of a sudden this horse ships to a synthetic 40 claimer at Presque Isle after a month layoff. I mean, I completely agree with you that, especially bringing Kimura down to Presque Isle for that race, and then now targeting a spot in a grade 3 on the synthetic. Completely agree.
It actually has no works.
I think we're looking at a promotion
either. I mean, no works.
I think we're looking at a promotion, Pete.
Yeah, I could see that now. I mean, I like that case because I was looking at this, and the only thing that scared me was just a little bit jump up in class, but maybe if McCarthy knows what he's and actually putting a horse. So if it ran like crap on the synth at Presque Isle, then you don't target this one. Then you sort of pivot back and go back to the turf, I assume, where it was running okay already. So actually, Kyle, we'll go back to you because we had that comment about the 11 transient. So in case you guys didn't see it, the comment was transient should be running on the turf, not the synth. So what were your thoughts with this one, Kyle? And this one is actually like we said, the morning line favorite. So if you don't like it on the synth, it's a good way to try and play against the morning line favorite. But Kyle, you actually do. So what were your thoughts?
I definitely agree. This horse just seems like, and this is one that I almost feel like it goes against what we were just talking about with the 3, is that they were trying to find a spot for this horse. Granted, the race trained by Mark Cassidy at Woodbine back last year. I mean, ran 2 pretty decent races. The first one being better than the second one, but I mean, ran 2 pretty good, really, actually not pretty good. They ran 2 really good races for Safi in New York in September, and then gets a month and a half layoff almost, and all of a sudden starts targeting synth again. I mean, I like it. I'm not going to play it for the price. I'm sure it'll be probably lower than 3-1, just judging by connection wise. And they bring Jose Ortiz here for this race. I mean, Dewey could be completely right. I couldn't leave him completely or her. Damn it. I couldn't leave her completely out of the money just because of how well meant this horse was. And I mean, let's not forget it. That allowance race at Woodbine at a mile and 16 was a pretty nice race. Yeah. So I'm going to use her. Not on top though, not for the price.
Yeah, the one comment I had, and actually had a decent stat where Safi is 31% win, 69% turf to synth in the last 6 months. So is obviously comfortable making this move. And the other thing was this horse, I mean, just from a buyer standpoint, is up to 82, 85 and improved so much over the turf form from last year. If it can improve on the synthetic form from last year, puts this one right in the mix. So again, at the price, maybe it's not the best because there are some question marks, but I do think this one definitely fits if it does take to the synth. It's sort of like it did a little bit last year. Mm-hmm. Paul, real quick, you have the 9 7-2 Creative Cairo in second. What'd you like about this one?
Well, and just back to that 11, if I could, Pete.
Oh, sure.
It's kind of mixed signals because Jose coming up to ride is obviously a factor, although he's not missing much in New York at Aqueduct on a Saturday in mid-November, but that's a factor. The other thing is that with Safi Joseph as the trainer, Safi runs at Gulfstream and then has strings elsewhere, but probably I don't think he runs anywhere that he's going to find $100,000 allowance race in September on turf other than New York. Certainly not at Churchill where they can't run on it still. They're running very limited. Very limited. They do a very good job with turf courses and closing racetracks. But so
don't rub it in. Don't rub it in on Kyle, man. Don't rub it in for Kyle like that. Make him cry.
And the same token, Clement, is pretty, discerning where he goes and when. Although I will still respectfully disagree with his decision to take Gufo to Kentucky Downs on 2 weeks rest, but he will be in the Hall of Fame someday, and I won't. But I think, it is a show of confidence, him shipping up here with this horse. There's no real reason for it. Again, though, there's not a horse like this isn't going to run for 150,000 at Aqueduct on Saturday. So I understand it, but I thought the horse is right there. You're going to have to guess a little bit on the synthetic, but the Cairo Princes and Pioneer of the Nile is the second sire, and the Creative Cause is the dam sire. I didn't take a deep dive, but I'm thinking that I don't think it's going to be a problem.
No, nothing on the dam side, but the sire side, Cairo Prince is fine. Nothing outstanding, nothing bad. Yeah. So what do you got, Kyle? Right. You got a comment there?
Nothing. I have a soft spot for Cairo Princes. And I'll tell you what, Jay has not run bad on synthetics. So Cairo Princes, they're perfectly fine on synthetics.
Yes, yes. And I do have Clement 8 for 11 in the money, turf to synth in route races in 2022. So again, he knows what he's doing when he needs to. I'll touch on one real quick. My top choice was the 7, who neither of you guys had, Angelou, 12-1. And again, my only thought here was more about just pace. So looking at the pace ratings, I think this one could be the best speed. And in some of these races where I don't love the other horses, if I can get the best speed in the race at a price, who's also 2 for 2 on synth. And as you could see here, just when it made the move to synth after getting into the Kevin Attard barn, it wins by 10, it wins by 4. Now, again, it was made in special weight and optional claimers, so it's a big step up. But obviously it has a quite the affinity for the synthetic, came back with 2 nice buyers. So again, if I can just get the horse who is the pace horse, I'll take that shot at 12-1 and then also maybe spread a little bit else. But, I've lost too many times to the horse that goes to the front that I don't have, and it pisses me off every single time. So, all right.
I like it. I took that horse third, Pete, and almost took her second. And
yes.
Considered taking her first. So I like that pick. She's a solid B on my grid.
Oh, I like it. Again, you can't go wrong with speed. And if she fades, great. But at least she's going to most likely be put you in the race, which again, sometimes is all you can ask for. All right, let's go to the 8th, the second graded stakes, the grade 2 Bessarabian. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is $175,000, 7 furlongs on the all-weather. And we have, again, one thing I like about this, we don't have any big favorites. Another favorite, 5-2, the 1 horse, Artie's Princess. So this time we'll go to, let's see who we have. I don't know who we're going to go to. Paul, you have the 1. Kyle, you have the 3. Paul, let's go to you because you have the 1, the favorite, Artie's Princess. So let's talk about her first. And I'll say her so we don't get confused. But go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, this was the other horse Jose came up to ride. Not so much this year, but the Presque Isle Downs Masters has historically been, believe it or not, a good prep for the filly and mare sprint. Groupie Doll won the filly and mare sprint out of the Presque Isle Downs Masters one year. So that's annually a pretty good race. So to win that race and, to win it against her profile, you look at her profile, she's always on or near the lead. And in that race, 7th out of 11 and comes flying home. So that tells me that this mare is in very good form, actually. She is an Ontario bred. It's a Ken Ramsey horse. We talked about Saffie Joseph last race. He's a high percentage trainer. And again, for me, the icing on the cake was Jose coming up to ride and this being a specialized distance, 2 starts, 1 win and 1 second. So I think a lot of positives for this this mare, rather.
Yeah, yep. And actually, one thing too, if we go back to sort of the pace scenario, if you look at the time form, early pace, Artie's Princess 121, the next horse, the 4 Lorena 100. So there's a huge pace advantage. Now from the 1 hole, we'll maybe have to leave. We'll see how that works from the rail. But again, as I was showing, I didn't want to interrupt. You see, he would beat in that race too. We know that horse came in as a bomb. Caravel came up, and so that wasn't. It turned out to be actually a pretty solid. There was a couple, 3 next out winners, 85 Buyer, 82. Caravel, won that race with a 92. So that turned around to be a pretty solid race too, which you may not expect to get at Presque Isle. So I like that. And then you have the 6 in second, Paul. We'll go down. Our Flash Drive for Mark Cassie and husbands. I really like this horse. I have this one on top, but I'll let you talk about it first.
Well, you mentioned at the top, Pete, this was an interesting card because there were some familiar names. And, I almost feel like Uncle Howard here. This is one of my daughters, or at least stepdaughters. I've played this horse many times. I think this horse is pretty good. And if you look at her company lines, she's a length and a half off Fluffy Socks, who's a real good Chad Brown horse. Second to Rogier, who, depending upon what day of the week and what country we're running in, is a very good turf horse. Lady Spice Spear, okay, we saw her last week. So I think that this horse is very solid, still only a 4-year-old, doesn't throw in a lot of clunkers. If you look on the page, there's 1/5, which was Chad Brown running 1, 2, 3, I believe. So I always use this horse, and no reason not to use her in this spot.
No, I agree. And sort of just to follow up, I had a couple things, right? It was fantastic synthetic breeding on both sides. And in that last one, actually checked really badly, still ran on really well, took the lead. I thought the race was over. And then I think it just sort of wore down a bit from, probably from the tough trip, but still ran on and has been, like you said, just running against really good company. So I definitely think this one has to be on the ticket. Kyle, we'll go to you for your top choice, the number 3, Hazelbrook, who, if you look at this page, has pretty much done nothing wrong in almost every race, has one little clunker, and the only loss here, Lady Spitesphere, who we just talked about. So plenty of things to like here. What drew you to this one on top?
Just the fact that, granted, the one has the 124, there's about 3 other horses in this race that have about 100. Early time form pace fig, that is.
Yeah.
So the one might just be faster than everyone, but I did see a little bit of pace kind of set up here. And Woodbine, actually Dewey asked in the chat if Woodbine kind of favors a certain type of running style on this in. All the replays that I've watched, it seems pretty fair. Just going back and forth through this card, I watched a pretty decent amount of replays, especially for that 2-year-old race and races coming up. It plays pretty fair. Whether you get out fast, people are they're much inclined to come from the back. If you go slow, you walk the dog, you're more than welcome. Yeah, I mean, they're inviting you to take it from the front. So it plays pretty fair. The pace setup, I just thought favored this horse really well, and I'm worried that this horse might get bet down a lot because, as we all love to say, everyone loves ones.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of ones on this page,
a lot of ones,
especially at Woodbine. It's 6 for 9. So again, I just think the pace is going to set up. You can use its tactical speed, sit in the pocket, hopefully, and just kind of go by the one either on the inside, like I've seen a lot of horses do at Woodbine, or kind of tip out at the top of the stretch. That was my hope.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. I mean, that's a hard one. I mean, that one's in such good form. It's hard to leave off your ticket. The only other thing I had was I'll throw in, I had the horse in second, the 8 Loyalty at 6 to 1. This one on the synth, 4 for 4, 3 for 3 at Woodbine. Again, it's a class step up, but I figure at the price has been working pretty well. Should be able to get, I mean, if you look at it, the trip should be able to get a decent stalking trip. And like you said, Kyle, this one was one of those ones in that sort of 98 to 100 plus range. Mm-hmm. So, but if this one can sit right off and maybe get first or second run, then I think this one could be quality and hopefully you get a price. So let's move it along. We'll go to the 9th race. The 9th, maiden optional claiming 40,000, purse 70,700, a mile and a 16th on the all weather. And the favorite in this one is the 1 Geneva. So let's see. I have the 1 on top. Paul has the 1 in second. Kyle, you do not have the 1 at all. So we're going to go to you first. You have the 6 Intro.
What the heck do you do in this race, man? I mean, this race was a puzzle in and of itself to try and figure out.
Wide open.
Yeah. As Gilbert Godfrey used to say, wide open.
Wide open.
But again, this horse, again, it's 0 for 12, but there's the few races that it's run on synthetic, especially as back numbers for the buyers to be very competitive. As a maiden, this horse was thrown into the listed stake race at Woodbine in 21, 25-1, but lost to Mara by 5 1/4. And we all know, obviously, didn't run a lick in the Breeders' Cup, but we know the horse that horse has turned out to be. So,
yeah,
again, just
especially
the back,
synth.
right? Well, yeah, judge debatable on turf, but really good on the synth. But this horse just has back numbers. It did drop to maiden 40, and it's ran 2 good races. Last one, I'm not holding against it. Again, going back to the synth, I just hope this horse can kind of run to its back numbers and hopefully can catch a piece. And if not, and it can get the right trip, could definitely get up to win.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had, even when I was making the pick, I'm like, I don't like any of them. I'm just gonna have to pick the lesser of many evils. So your second horse, the 8, Mardine, I assume it's pronounced, at 6-1. What do you have? What do you have on this one? And this one ran against Geneva in the last race, but on the turf. What are your thoughts on this one?
Again, it's just a back. Again, it's just trying to solve a puzzle that is, existing. And I understand. I'm just trying to shop around a little bit. Now that I see, everyone's love for the 1, I might have to go back and re-examine the horses like the 1 coming to synthetic for the first time. But just the horses' back numbers and the buyers. The last race at Woodbine in the main special weight wasn't bad. Goes to the turf, dropping into claiming. Coming back to the synth, I think better suits this horse. And again, as long as it can run to that mid-60s type of range that we've seen from this horse before, I think it's definitely competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all we're looking for at this point. And then lastly, you have the 2, Maralinga, a nice price at 12-1. Hasn't shown a ton, has a half decent buyer. Was this one just sort of price hunting, or did you see anything that might pop out that says this one might be ready to do something?
A little bit of price hunting. I just like it going to the route. The dam wins 3 for 20, 15% of the time it routes. Dropping from special weight to Clayton, that last race really was tried to run 6 wide, really hasn't been bet down. I'm just trying to find something. Like I said, going back, I might try and just throw the 1 in there just to kind of go from the from the turf to synthetic. But again, just trying to price shop and trying to find horses that might be able to catch a price in a race that's so wide open as this one looks.
I mean, this is probably the one to do it. Paul, you have the 4 on top, Terra Luna. Let's talk about that one. That one's sitting at 3-1, second choice right now. I'm not going to try and pronounce the trainer's name because I would murder it. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'd like to buy a vowel.
I know that's Zelko
last name.
Kirkmar, I assume. Well, we'll give it a shot.
Kyle, I'll tell you and I both have the 1, 4, 6 in our top 3, and this is why the race is a problem. I have a very solid negative on all 3 of them. The trainer on the 1 is 2 for 17 turf to synthetic, and she did run well last time, just missed. But the fact is, she's had 3 chances now, was bet pretty good twice, and is still a maiden. The 4, the trainer is the dam, rather. I believe I looked it up. It was the dam is 0 for 4 on synthetic, and the 6 rather is 0 for 7 and 0 for 12 overall. So that tells me that we're either going to be right and get a price, not get the price we should, or the tote board's going to blow up. So I I didn't have your 2 or 8. I just made them C's just because you wouldn't think you'd need that much coverage. But like I say, I think those horses, Kyle, those 3 that I just mentioned, and I picked the 4 on top. And the reason I picked the 4 on top, well, started out maiden special, yes, 0 for 10. Blinkers on, trainer doesn't do it, but it is a high percentage trainer, however you pronounce it. 22% at Woodbine, 23% for the year. Took money the last 2 times, might drift up a little bit from that. Just missed last time. I mean, this is about as weak a case as anyone's ever made for a horse. I understand.
Yeah, I'm not running to the windows based on any of the cases we're making for any of these horses. So I think this one, I would say you can go price shopping. It's not that big of a field, and most of the horses are pretty low, and I didn't like the 7 at all. Hasn't really run a step. And then Kyle picked that 2 horse at 12. I had a note, hasn't taken any money and has run like it. So that's not exactly
I mean, that's fair.
a glowing endorsement either. But, again, maybe this is the one where you could catch a price, or, the one just runs away and gets on the lead and runs away. Who the hell knows? I'm with you on this one. I have no clue. I'm going to I don't think I spread much just because of the ticket, but I think I would almost want to play everybody in an ABC scenario. All right, let's jump to the last race. The last one, the 10th, allowance optional claimers, 32 grand, purse, 111,000, which is lovely. 7 furlongs on the all weather. And we have the favorite, again, another sort of light favorite, the 11, Pioneer's Edge at 3-1. So let's see who we got here. We're going to go with Paul this time to start. The number 7, Magic Ride. Let's see. What are your thoughts on this one? HHH Racing Podcast in there.
Who's that guy?
I don't know.
Never heard of him.
Can't we block that or get rid of it or something?
I hope he subscribed. Pete, make sure he subscribed.
He's one of those old people who doesn't know how YouTube works, probably. So
very good.
The number 7, Magic. I try every once in a while. The number 7, Magic Ride, 6-1 for Rachel Halden. What are your thoughts here, Paul?
Yeah,
what drove you to this one?
Pete, to be honest with you, I was I thought the 7, 10, and 11 in my book were fairly equal, and I went with the highest price of the 3 and the best speed figure of the 3.
I like that.
The 7 coming off that 84 from the rail last time, in which she broke. By the way, is this like an all Philly card? All we keep saying is she
all Phillies. Yeah.
I think it is.
I thought that was a good race. Again, like I say, I used the 10 and 11. They're all going to be A's on my grid. The 10 won first time out for Josie Carroll from the rail. We already talked about that earlier, that's not easy to do. So definitely want to use that horse. And
real quick, 11. Real quick on that 10. If you watch that race, we don't have to go watch the replay, but that horse, for a first time starter, broke pretty badly, was sort of green, was sort of running up a little bit on horses, and then came up the rail for the win, which also is a tough thing to do for a first time starter or a young horse. So this horse had everything go wrong and still comes out with a win. If it could actually run well and run straight and run, break, this one might be pretty tough. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree, Pete. That's not easy to do, and then to hold on to boot, and took enough money. 4-1 first time out is taking some money. And I was just saying the 11, the 11 breaks her maiden. They put her in a listed stakes and she just about wins, and then they put her in the a good grade 3 that they run up there, the Celine, which is and that Super Hoity Toity is a pretty good horse. So, and then here's Moira again. All this 11 does is lose to horses who come back and win next time. It's happened the last 4 races.
Yeah, Sister Seagull turned out to be really nice as well. And I think the loss to Moira here, only lost by a head, was sort of making up ground. I mean, this one's a pretty logical favorite. The only thing I looked at, the outside posts at this configuration at Woodbine don't do well. So I was a little timid about that. Hey. We have I
was told there's a special guest backstage awaiting our arrival.
Bring somebody in. Hey, Mr. Coatney, are you there? Can you hear us? I see you're on mute, but I don't know if you're actually listening. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, yeah, I'm back in a car again.
I mean, you're just driving around in limos now that you're loaded, just driving around constantly with champagne and limos. I love it.
Get out of here. No, I was commercial in the back, like the best of them.
I feel like a talk radio host. Drew in the car. You're next on the HHH podcast.
Hey, first time, long time.
That's right. And then on always, man.
Second time for you, sir. Drew, I did get we will digress. I did get around to listening to your show with PTF, and boy, I'll tell you, everyone who ever should dream of playing a contest should listen to it. Not that any of us are going to be in the position to make $100,000 wager, but the idea about having a plan and sticking to it. And I think if I counted right, Drew, there were any one of 4 times the horse lost, you were done, right? You were all in 3 times before the Classic?
Yeah, all in. I think 4 or 5. I want to go back and add it up. I might be the biggest loser to win. I think I lost about $28,000, which comes into very key play when you're trying to figure out your taxes at the end of the day. So,
it's great. No, it was great.
Yeah,
it's
and we just released a video. I think it was this morning with the overlays of the photos. Some guy with Kyle. I don't know his last name still, but
Kyle's a star.
No one ever realizes my last name. Dead.
If you want to see a grown man cry, I think at the last 10 minutes they show my reaction video with Kyle patting me on the back as we got flight line.
Don't make me watch it again, bro. I swear.
But hey, I'm just here to support.
You know what, Drew? I was just going to say, Drew, whether it's, we all have had not those type of moments, winning $500,000, but, those times at the track where someone's there, and it looks like our guy Kyle was kind of an unsung hero for you that day.
Apparently not. Apparently
no.
It's not even worth the talk.
It's
Drew,
like Beetlejuice.
You still there with us, Drew?
It's like Beetlejuice. You mentioned my name too many times, and everything goes to
he disappears.
Everything goes to crap.
I mean, maybe he's in the tunnel, or the champagne spilled on his phone, so he.
But
no,
just
and I know that Howard is going to have. You mentioned he has Matt and Brad and Drew next week, and
you're back.
There you are, Drew. You're back.
There you are, Drew. You're back.
You went silent that whole time.
As soon as Paul asked a question about Kyle and you went silent, so we just figured you were done with him and you didn't want to talk to him anymore. So
no, I was saying, sorry, I'm in rural Texas right now, so hit or miss cell service. But first off, I'm here to support you guys, so keep handicapping, ask me any questions you want.
Yep.
But I was
every time.
Every time we're losing you again, Drew.
On Kyle, I was talking about Vic.
Damn.
I swear, every time he mentions your name, Kyle, it just black. You're right. You're Candyman or Beetlejuice, one of those two.
But we'll ask Drew what he likes when
Drew, you're going completely in and out. You get soup. I don't know if you can hear me or at all, but there you go. He went on mute really quick. All right, we're real quick. We'll wait for Drew to sort of catch it, and then we'll actually go through our pick fives, and then if Drew comes back on, we'll sort of jump in. So actually we'll start with you. Let's put us on the big screen here. Let's get our beautiful faces up there.
Find my ticket.
All right, I'll read it off for the audio listener. So Paul's pick 5.
Oh, good.
4, 6, 7, 8. With 6, 7, 9, with 1, 3, 6, with 1, 4, with 7, 10, 11. And that is a cost of $43.20. And just for everyone listening or watching, the Woodbine pick 5 is a 20-cent minimum. So I assume, I didn't do the math, I assume this is a 20-cent ticket, Paul, that you have here?
Yes.
So what was your strategy here?
Well, as you could see, I'm pretty top heavy at the beginning. I was, when we had to do our top 3 selections, I had four horses, the 4, 6, 7, and 8. So while I landed on the 4, 8, 6 for the top 3, I definitely wanted to include the 7. Interestingly, in the second leg, I had the 3 third in our picks, but more as a board horse. I did not use that horse in the Caveman, but the 7 who I had as a B. Your 7, Pete, Angelo.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
I have on my Caveman ticket over one of my picks that I picked in the top 3. The 8th, I thought I was fairly straightforward. I just went with the top 3 picks that I had in the race. I think one of those 3 will win. The 9th was a leg that, this is one of those legs. We just got through talking about it. I think in a Caveman, either you're going all or almost all, or you might as well just, in a regular one, I probably would say single, but with 20 cents, you don't really have to single. So I just went too deep and went with the 1 and 4. And then, as I just mentioned, I thought in the last leg, those three, I thought they were all pretty equal. So I finished it up with those three, 7, 10, 11.
No, and I like that. Again, that was a $43.20 ticket, which is a fantastic lead into Kyle's pick 5, which also came in at a brisk $43.20. So Kyle has 4, 6, 7, 8 with 3, 6, 11 with 1, 3, 6 with 2, 8, 6 with 7, 10. So Kyle, walk us through your ticket.
So, I mean, completely agree. I'm pretty top heavy in the top, and I have exactly the same horses that Paul does. My top 3, and then I added in the 6, which is the first time starter for that tap at first time starter in there. If she's ready off of that for Josie Carroll off the bench, then she'll be ready to go. And actually, I did look it up, Paul. It is an all filly sequence. It is all for fillies and mares. So we didn't like fever dream that. The 7th race, 3, 6, 11. Again, just my top 3. I don't see really anybody else for me. I don't know who I would add, except maybe the 7 that Pete and Paul both liked. But again, since it's 20 cents, we have a $50 budget that we like to stay under. As Paul would say, Uncle Howard likes to keep us at a budget. But
cheap,
I mean, like I said,
Uncle Cheap Howard.
Cheapo, yeah. But I mean, like I said, it's 20 cents. You can get creative a lot depending on your bankroll. So, but like Paul said, it's 20 cents. You don't necessarily have to single in a sequence like this just because it is so cheap. But if you do single, it's definitely an ability to press up. So you could play for, 40 cents, 50 cents or whatever if you do find a single in this type of sequence. But I'm going to go 3, 6, 11 in the second race. In the 8th, in the Bessarabian, I believe. Again, just my top 3 picks. Paul said it best. I don't see anyone else that I would add in that race. The 9th race, I went 2, 8, 6. I would probably relook at that, and I would switch the 2 with your top pick, Pete, and I believe Paul's second pick, the 1. Going from turf to synthetic. That's probably where I would switch. Just kind of, again, you're just trying, like, that's race for me is I'm just trying to pick the best out of what's in front of me. But in the last race, I loved that. You guys touched on it, but I love that move that the 10 did. First time out to be able to come up the rail with a brand new horse like that. I love that type of angle with just a severely professional horse at its first time start. And you can easily take a step forward from that. So I really love the 10, but popping that 84 buyer for that 7, I'm going to add her in there as well. And like I said, since you don't really have the single in a sequence like this.
No, I like that ticket. All right, we'll get to mine because we have some folks waiting backstage to come on as well. So my pick 5 ticket, the 4, 6 with 7, 10, 11 with 1, 3, 6, 8 with 1, 6 with 6, 7, 10, 11. And actually, Paul sort of said it best. And so in the 6th, I sort of really like that first time starter, the 6, Victorious Tappet, and then the 4, the favorite. The 7th, I just sort of went with my top 3, including that 7, who the top speed horse, Angelou. In the 8th, I just went, it's not the best ticket because it's probably taking, I think, the top 4 choices, but those were the 4 that I thought had the best shot to win. So I went a little deeper there. In the 9th, which we all thought was a toss-up race, I sort of went with what you said, Paul. I said, screw it. I'm just going to go short in that one because I don't really love anyone. So I don't want to waste a bunch of money. But if I was doing an ABC, I would back them up and try and maybe catch a price. And then in the 10th, I love that 7. I love the 10, like you said. But again, the 10 and 11 aren't the best posts at Woodbine. The 11 looks like on class, looks really good. And then we didn't get to talk about the 6, but the 6 is just another quality horse that just runs its race every single time. So, and that ticket costs $38.40. I had one more horse on there, Paul. It had me up to like 57, but I didn't want to get yelled at, even if it's off air. So I said I'll be nice and drop it down and make it cheap for the listeners. So actually,
you could have said 57. You should have said 57 Canadian is $49.95.
American. I didn't feel like looking up the conversion rates and trying to figure out if that was a bargain or not. So I figured I'll just let it go and go cheap for once. All right. So we have backstage. Let's bring on El Cheapo himself, Mr. Howard Kravitz.
Wow. That's rough.
You're on mute. What are
Hey,
you?
Kyle,
what's up, guys?
Kyle, our tickets are so close. I'm putting mine in for 43. You put yours in for 43. We'll split if we hit it. How's that?
I'm down. Let's do it.
Hey, Drew, can you hear us, by the way?
I can. I should have good cell service, but if it drops out, I'll
Drew.
mute and
Real quick, Drew, I'd love you to stay on for a minute and meet. I don't know if you've met him personally. Not Jim Miller will be coming on in just a minute from Hawthorne Racecourse. So, Drew, stay on for a minute when we switch to Jim Miller, if you can. You can say hello to the wonderful Jim Miller. Drew, do you have some prices in this Woodbine sequence? I believe you did a segment already with PTF, or you're going to be doing.
Yeah, the only price I had, and I don't have my PPs in front of me, and looking at those while driving is dangerous. And it's the two. It's the
you're
two
driving.
horse.
My bad. I know you're actually driving. Okay.
It's the 2 horse. I believe it's right after the Best Arabian at 12-1.
Maralinga. That's Kyle's. That's Kyle's horse.
Kyle.
That was Kyle's horse, Drew.
Wow.
So,
Drew, you've rubbed off on the young man.
Yeah, yeah. And, he's rubbed off on me too. I think we've given more hugs than I have in my entire life to that man. So there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, 3 real quick things. Then Jim, we're going to bring you on literally in 2 minutes here, and Drew, feel free to stay on also for a minute. People ask about the track condition. As Kyle knows very well, it is going to turn very cold starting tomorrow here in Chicago. Our fall has been unbelievable. It was 74 and sunny here today in Chicago. It was absolutely gorgeous. I stayed outside a little extra longer as the sun was going down because it'll be 4 months until we feel that again. My point, though, I want to make is Woodbine, it's going to be cold up there on Saturday. And Kyle knows this. Sometimes when this poly track or synthetic gets colder, it does tighten up and it could favor speed because when it's warmer, it's sort of a waxy kind of surface. I don't know for sure. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I would just watch the way the track plays. It could be more speed favoring than normal, number 1. Number 2, Drew, in honor of you and Matt Miller and Brad Anderson, I'm going to do something a little different on Saturday. I'm going to play a small pick 5, but I'm going to put $200 and play my own little contest and try to build it up to 2,000. Usually you need times 10. So I'm going to go to Woodbine. I'm going to play doubles and wins only with those $200. See what I can do. Drew, I'm practicing for next year's BCBC already. How about that?
I love it.
Okay. And
I love it. And if anyone doesn't do that,
He just muted himself.
all right, sorry, Drew. You're going in and out. We'll hold off just a second, Drew. And the other last thing before I bring on Jim Miller and let you guys go, I do want to bring up next week because next week I Pete and Paul and Kyle, we talked for this. Things are slowing down a little bit. I thought it'd be a great idea to do some evergreen content. So let me show the viewers what we got going on next week because I really think it's going to be some exciting shows, and it's not going to be handicapping at all. But it's going to be two. What happened here? Hold on. All right, we're having.
We were doing fine when Pete was running it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on. Well, let's try it one more time, guys. We got 2 great shows. Let's see what's going on. All right, here we go. 2 great shows going on. Next Tuesday, I'm calling it BCBC Mathematics. It's going to be at the last 3 champions. Pete already mentioned this. You do not have to be a math expert, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get in sort of how you make bets in the BCBC, or really how to make the most efficient bets in general. And as Drew knows, Marshall will be talking about his pick 1. That's right. You heard that correctly. His pick 1. So it's going to be really fascinating. I highly recommend everyone join us. I'm sure Jim Miller will be interested in both these shows. Next Tuesday, we're calling it the math of betting. It's going to be fascinating. And then next Thursday, Flightline. Where does he fit with the greats? Take a look at that lineup, guys. We're going to have a recently retired, fantastic journalist from the DRF, or formerly Jay Privman, and also Saratoga Specials, Tom Law, plus our whole panel. We're basically going to talk about, guys, where Flightline fits in the pantheon of great horses. It's a fascinating conversation. And while we do that, let's bring on Jim Miller, guys, with all of us on screen. Jim, we're going to bring you on right now. Jim Miller from Hawthorne Racecourse. Jim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, guys. I love the hat, Howard. It's a wonderful hat. So very proud of you there, my man.
Got to represent. Jim, we're going to talk a little about Flightline and get into Hawthorne. But while everyone's here, Jim, how was your Breeders' Cup? experience from the betting angle or just watching in general?
Yeah, two observations that I came away from the Breeders' Cup with. First of all, I mean, Flightline, you guys have talked about it. Super impressive performance, something that I thought was just fantastic to close out the card. The thing that I found the most impressive was how European riders rode all weekend long. The amount of ground-saving trips, the amount of times that they were just patient, the amount of victories that came from their patience or near wins that came from their patience. It killed me, and I know it's a horse that you like too, Howard. Watching the trip from Obligatory in the filly and mare sprint, this was a horse that if you look at the race and watch, everybody fanned out at the top of the lane. And if they just waited, had a little bit of patience, probably could have come through along the inside, maybe run second in the race. But how many times these European riders just wait. And so often the hole did come clear and they were able to work their way through. I thought that was one of the more impressive things, just the overall efforts from the European horses on the turf, but the riders giving them the trips to put them in a spot to win too.
Jim, European horses were in 7 Breeders' Cup races. They won 6. Yeah. Absolutely unbelievable. Jim, we'll talk about that a little more. Pete, Paul, Kyle, as usual, fantastic job, Pete, especially hosting tonight. Great. We look forward to talking to you guys next Thursday. We're going to see everyone on the show when we talk about the great Flightline and where he fits. Pete, Paul, and Kyle, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. Take care, everyone.
See ya.
See you, everybody.
All right. Jim,
yes,
hope
sir.
you had a good week. We were just talking about the weather. The weather, sir, has been unbelievable this fall in Chicago. I mean, I had to wait a few extra minutes outside today, Jim, just to sort of soak it all in. As you know, it's like 75%.
I'm in what I was wearing today. T-shirt and shorts.
Absolutely crazy. However, the bottom's about to drop out, as you well know. And I'm fascinated to ask you about how that might affect the track conditions. But let's just get into that right now. I'm going to bring up the PPs. Jim, why is this particular Friday's Pick 4 of note for everyone watching other than the obvious PPs?
Well, the main reason it's of note is we're doing something that we've done a lot on the standardbred end, bringing it over to the thoroughbred end, and that's a guaranteed pool for the late Pick 4. So what we want to do is we want to make things a little bit more appealing. You look at Pick 4 pools, maybe they get 10, 12, 15,000. A good day, you get up to 20,000. We're going to guarantee it for 25,000 and make sure that we can get this pool generating a little bit more interest. So your later races are going to be a little bit more wide open races. It's a lot of your bigger fields later on in the day. The other thing you find too, Howard, is there's more of a focus on Hawthorne now at this time of year, because after daylight savings time kicks in, a lot of these racetracks that don't have lights, they're done by the time our late Pick 4 starts. So it's basically going to be us on the West Coast that are rolling. All we have to do is avoid the races out there from Del Mar. And if we can do that, then we're going to be just fine. But that's the reason we did it for the late Pick 4 sequence. It's a really good sequence. I'm excited about it. And I'm curious to see how the track plays, because you mentioned that, Howard. Here's the thing. For the bettors, it may not be as much of a factor on Friday because temps are going to be in the mid to upper 40s. Saturday and Sunday, the first freeze of the year, is the best time to play the races at Hawthorne because it's inside speed, inside speed, inside speed. And the reason I say that, the Fontana rail, and we've talked about it, casts a shadow over the inside path. That doesn't thaw as quickly as the remainder of the racetrack. So the inside's so good throughout the course of the day. Later in the day when the sun goes down, things even out a little bit. But the first half of cards, Saturday and Sunday, are going to be so much speed favoring type of racetracks.
It's such great insight, folks, to have someone like Jim Miller, and highly recommend people bet Hawthorne. These angles are absolutely true, and you can make a crap ton. I almost said I'm so excited about the possible money we can make. I almost swore on. You can make a lot of money, Jim. Let's jump into the Pick 4, sir, right now. There's the first race of the Pick 4 sequence. It starts in race 5, so that's about 5:35 Eastern time. Again, about 5:35 Eastern time. It's 8,500 claimers. They're going 6 furlongs, filly and mares 3 and up. We see the field there. It's a big field. They got the favorite on the outside, number 9, Cozy's Ghost, a Florida bred for Scott Becker, Victor Santiago. And I got to bring up, sorry, I didn't bring up the banners. I apologize. Hold on a second here. I have banners for us to bring up. Where are they? Let me find them. There they are. All right. Jim, you're going to go with the Minnesota bred, the number 8, Birdie Be Gone for Joel Burnt and Roman.
Minnesota breds have had such a tremendous meet all meet long. And it's not just Joel Burnt. It's Tim Padilla, Tony Rengsdorf, you name it. They're doing so well. And Birdie Be Gone just might get the trip here because this is a horse that's going to lay close to the pace, but doesn't need the lead to win. And you look at that last out, this was a trip where the horse got hung a little bit wide there in that spot. And that's the one thing that I think worked a little bit against Birdie Be Gone. And that was the first race over this Hawthorne strip. But you look at that race, Go Storming Girl is in this spot. Sweet Confusion is in this spot. Owen's Pleasure is in this spot. But the race was a little bit different for the fact that Go Storming Girl was forwardly placed, but you only had a couple of horses up there on the lead. And you're seeing that from the replay right now. When you look at this fifth race on Friday, there's the potential of 4 horses out there possibly duking things out on the front end. And because of that, I think you can look a little bit further back for somebody to come from a bit out of it. And you see Birdie Be Gone here. Didn't have a bad trip, but Foggy Kitten was able to cruise along. Go Storming Girl got an absolute dream trip in that spot. But I think Birdie Be Gone gets a similar trip, rates close, but I think this is a horse that will run on late a little bit more in this spot. And you see here, had to be hung out there a little bit wide, so you hope to save a little bit of ground in this race, but I think you get a little bit better price. And still, you use Go Storming Girl, you use Cozy's Ghost. Sweet Confusion was a horse that was rallying late for place, and I do think you get out of those first leg with those 4 horses.
Well, I really like Sweet Confusion right here. I'm going to back up for one. The 7 is Sweet Confusion, who is the 4 on Friday. You see an absolutely horrific start right here by Sweet Confusion. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit. Then, the horse is moving up, has to go in between horses. You're going to see then the horse steadies here, come up here in just a second here. Right there is a steady, loses momentum, is climbing, is just all over the place, Jim. And then again, we show the stretch where she's still coming on, only lost to your horse by just a bit. This is definitely a trip play, although I do think Sweet Confusion is going to get bet down off of this because a lot of people are very astute handicappers, especially here in the Chicagoland area, and see this replay here, Jim. So I don't think I'm going to get the price I want on Sweet Confusion. And
that's a big rider change too, Howard. I mean, you're going from Top Morris to Jareth Loveberry. That's a big change in the saddle too.
Yeah, big rider change for the 4 there to Loveberry, as you mentioned. So we're going to go ahead and move on, Jim. But it's a wide open race. I'm going to go with the 4. Jim is going to go with the 8. We're both price shopping just a little bit there in that leg. Let's go to race 6, ladies and gentlemen. Race 6, the second leg of the pick 4. Again, this is Friday's pick 4, everyone, with a guaranteed $25,000 pool. Jim, just ballpark figure based on past history. Let's put us on screen. How do you think it'll be in the kitty tomorrow?
I think you're probably going to be 30, 35,000, only for the fact that our marketing department's done a really good job of promoting this wager. It's a 15% takeout. It's just a 50-cent base minimum, so you can get a lot of coverage. But again, it's the timing of when we're doing it. We didn't launch it before the Breeders' Cup because of daylight savings time. Less competition out there. I think you're going to get more activity. And usually the 5th and 6th race on the card, Howard, are your biggest handle races. And for Hawthorne, when you talk big handle, you're talking 250, 260,000 for the pool for the race. These races probably now go around 300,000, but you get that interest early on in the sequence. It carries through the remainder of the card too. So yeah, I'm expecting 30 to 35,000 in the pool.
That handle you said per race, just a touch over what Drew Coatney bet on Flightline in the last race of BC. I'm assuming you heard, Jim, a $97,000 all-in bet. Pretty cool.
I love it
for Drew Coatney. Race 6 right here, optional 27.5 allowance, 6 furlongs. Really nice. These are Illinois breds. Nice purse here as well. You got a pretty big field of 8. With the Moorline favorite number 4, White Lies, Patty Miller, Quinones. You can see on the screen, Jim is going to go with the 8, and so am I, Jim. I really like this horse quite a bit. Lily's Woofy. What do you like about this Jareth Loveberry ridden horse?
Yeah.
What do you like about the 8?
Yeah, and I do too. And here's the thing about this race. When
Jim, you froze up on us, Jim.
I was looking through this race, Howard. There's a little bit of speed in this spot.
Go ahead, Jim. You froze up on us with the
I'm freezing up on you. I'm sorry there.
You're okay now. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no problem at all. All right, so Lily's Woofy is the horse that I do like as well. I think this is a horse that rates up close to the pace in here. Cat Attack's a horse that should be able to show some speed, but Cat Attack's really more of a grass horse. And that's the thing about it, is this is a horse that I don't know how they're going to handle the main track. Lily's Woofy loves this Hawthorne main track. 5 of 7 on the board, 3 of them coming as victories. It's a barn that's had a pretty good meet. Again, you get Jareth Loveberry in the saddle, and there's really not a whole lot of other pace. So I think Cat Attack can go out there and clear. I think Lily's Woofy follows right in behind, and these two should tuck in on that run down the backside. But White Lies is the horse that's going to take all the action because the horse is dropping out of the stake. But the running style doesn't really suit for White Lies in this field. It's a horse I'd use on my ticket, but it's not a horse I'm going to use on top. I think Lily's Woofy definitely provides a little bit more value in here.
Jim, I've got an angle that's been pretty effective with thoroughbreds. It's been especially effective with standardbreds. I don't know if you feel the same way I do. I'm very much against horses coming out of stake races, coming back relatively quickly, because you have to figure the trainer connections that are gearing up for a stake race. It's not like they cannot win, but they're always overbet because everyone sees the line. They're coming back from stake races. I found these horses kind of underperform very consistently, Jim. So I'm a bit against White Lies. I have her in third. I agree with everything you said with Lily's Woofy, who's been involved with some fast paces, has a month off now. It has a bullet, by the way, at 47, best out of 24 on November 6th. And I agree with you. The 7 is just a weird spot. I mean, I love Michelle Boyce. When you look at the breeding, the Damn Kitty's Castle is almost exclusively poly and turf, and there's really only one sibling that's done any running at all in the dirt. So I think this is just a case of Michelle really has nowhere else to go with this filly. I mean, it's not going to be on turf. You guys are not running very many turf races anymore. I'm completely against this horse. Other horse I want to mention quickly is the 6, so you don't have anywhere. But I thought Gallop the Great was interesting, getting back to the dirt, Jim, getting back, to softer company. I don't like the fact that she's in for the 27.5. It's a bit of a pet peeve for me, but absolutely has dirt races on the go back that can win. I mean, was running it at Oaklawn Park, for goodness sakes, in the spring. So I'm very interested in the 6, also a bit of a price. I'm going 8.64. Any other quick thoughts before we go to the next race?
Well, the one thing about it, that is a horse. So I threw a 4th horse on my pick 4 ticket, and that was the horse. The 6th horse was another one that I think you do have to use. Iggy Biggs was a horse that was a little bit interesting to me in this spot, Howard, only because it's the same connections of Lily's Woofy. So curious to see what pace scenarios Lily's Woofy goes. Maybe Iggy Biggs tucks in just behind. But again, Iggy Biggs, White Lies, Cat Attack, all these horses following your angle, dropping out of a stake into a race here. You tend to wonder, do they underperform or not? They're probably going to be overbet. I think we are on the right horse there with Lily's Woofy.
I think so. And Iggy Biggs is the 5, everyone. Sorry, I'm off screen now. The 5. Just let everyone know. All right, Jim, let's go on to the penultimate leg of this pick 4. It's race 7. And Jim, look at the bottom of the screen, buddy. We totally agree here with our top 2. Hopefully it's great minds think alike and not knuckleheads think alike. Well, I'd be the only knucklehead. You, of course, are definitely a great mind. Allowance race. Let's go ahead to it. Allowance race. Again, we got the fillies and mares here. They're going 6 furlongs. They're all 6 furlong dirt races, by the way, in this sequence. You got a big field of 12 with the morning line. Great name for Ravelli and Loveberry. Maureen loves Frank, Florida bred. Neither one of us are going with Maureen or Frank. We're going with the 7, Journeyist, an Illinois bred for the aforementioned Michelle Boyce.
Yeah, and the thing about Maureen loves Frank is Larry Ravelli in Illinois takes so much money. And you're going to have to overcome the 12 hole with a horse that's not going to make the top, probably going to get hung wide a little bit. And there's just so much that kind of works against it in here. And then on top of it, this was a horse that was 4 to 5 in that last out. Long Tall Woman comes out of that same race, and Long Tall Woman was way ahead of Maureen Loves Frank. That one gets the rail. Maureen Loves Frank gets the outside here. Here's the thing. Journeyist did exactly what you wanted to see in that last out. You were coming in off the layoff, and that was a long layoff. The horse made the top, won rather easily, was not used under the wire. This was a horse that I thought had more than enough left in the tank. And you get a field here where, again, nobody else is really committed to the top. And that's the thing about it, is you kind of look through here. It was a state bred allowance. This is a great move because in Illinois, you get that ability coming out of that state bred allowance now to run the open first level allowance and go right from there and get Illinois bred bonus money. But you're looking at it here. I mean, Constantino Roman is keeping after the horse a little bit, but he's not really whipping and driving. He's looking back, seeing what he has. He has more than enough left in the tank aboard this horse, and this was a horse that I thought won rather easily. The thing about Long Tall Woman on the inside, Howard, The horse does have 4 wins over the track, but the horse has a tendency to hang. And the horse hung pretty badly on that last start out behind Honey Mug because Long Tall Woman should have run on by. And I actually picked Honey Mug in that race, so I was happy with the price I got on that one. I just think Journeyist is the one that makes the top. This is a horse that could cruise along, and I think this is a horse that will be very tough. If Long Tall Woman gets away from the inside, yes, could be in the mix. But I'm with you. I think you throw out the outside horse, try to catch a little bit of a price, and this is kind of a key race for the sequence.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, upside, I didn't want to do that. This is all about upside to me. I mean, Journeyist does not lay over the field by any means. In fact, you could argue
Right.
she's a bit slow. It's a newly turned not newly turned, second start for 3-year-old Michelle Boyce. This horse could easily explode to a low 70s. Wouldn't surprise me. I don't think she needs a lead. We don't really know, of course, but she's been working well. This is like the kind of horse I just love. I don't think we're getting 9-2. I think she's more like 3-1. But there's not a ton of early speed. I think she can rate. She's a fresh face. I love everything about Journeyist, and I agree with you. I think she, in fact, if you want to play a smaller ticket, Jim, I could see people singling this horse. If you really want to take a stand, sort of bit of a separator, right? This would be a great horse to single if you agree with me and you, correct?
And when you talk about horses for the course, some horses handle Hawthorne better than others. Tighter turns, longer stretch. This horse 4 starts at Hawthorne, 4 times on the board. Both victories have come over the racetrack. Again, it draws well. No reason to think this horse isn't going to get a really good trip and be right there the entire way.
Totally agree. Let's go to the last race, which is a bit of a cheaper race to close out the sequence. But it's a field to me that I don't think you have to go very deep. However, it's hard to trust anyone. It's one of those kind of tricky races, Jim. The race is going to start at about 7 p.m. Eastern time to close it out. Great way to close out your day of races before you go grab dinner with the family. It's claiming 62.5. They're going 6 furlongs. Again, it's filly and mares. It's a nice field. The Moyline favorite, and I think, Jim, this is a horse that we talked about on our show last time.
Yep.
I believe, and we both like this horse, I believe.
Yep.
The number 4, Lucy's Looking Left, another Minnesota bred, as you mentioned, for Robertson and Loveberry. That is the horse you're going to go to repeat for yourself and close out this pick 4.
I'm happy with the horse that you used, though, too. So we'll touch on both of these. So we can start with Lucy's Looking Left. It's kind of that light bulb angle. You get these horses that figure it out. The light bulb goes off. They learn how to win. The one thing I like about this horse when they last out, won from the 10 hole, too. Didn't make the lead, made kind of a wide move the whole way around, and then won rather easily. Didn't have to beat a whole lot there, but still got the job done. You draw really well in this spot, and the horse will take a lot of action off that because it's Loveberry and Robertson. The horse you're on, though, Howard, is the horse that I like quite a bit as well. And the post is the reason we might get a little bit of a price. That's the 11 First Kitten. This is a horse that defeated Lucy's Looking Left in that start 2 back.
Yeah.
They tried a turf allowance in that last down. I'm not quite sure why they went that route, but they did try that route. That was a little bit too tough. The jock, Alexis Centeno, was actually ridden really well this meet. 8 victories out of 34 starts, winning at a 24% clip. He's just been riding with a whole lot of confidence. Don't worry about the outside draw here. This is a long run down the backside. You can go probably 6 horses to the inside of First Kitten and not really find anybody to challenge pace-wise. So this horse should be able to clear over. My only concern is Lucy's Looking Left is maybe able to get the jump, but I think these are the 2 that are clear in the lane.
This is purely a pace play. I mean, Jim, I have zero confidence in this horse, but like you said, I mean, who's going with this horse early? Centeno's going to be aggressive. She's going to clear unless she doesn't break. I don't know about the 6 furlongs, but I'll take my chances with a possible speed favoring kind of track. By the way, it's going to be windy again tomorrow, Friday here as we're filming, so you got to check that out as we talked about. The thing about the Lucy's Looking Left, and I don't have any insight other than just looking to PPs and watching replays. She might prefer the outside. I mean,
Maybe.
When she's inside, sort of like buried down, I don't know if she doesn't like to take dirt. I don't know what the story is. She ran so well last time from the outside, and maybe the light bulb did come on, Jim, or maybe she just wants to be on the outside in the clear. So I don't know. To me, that number is so much better than everything else after 9 lifetime starts. It makes me a little bit concerned, and she's going to be like 7-5. I have no desire to pick this horse on top. No disrespect at all, Jim, because I'm probably doing a little stinking thinking here, but I would never bet this horse to win anything less than 5-2 personally. And then the 2, really quick, who we both have, on our top 3. I would not completely rule out Wicked Good. Might be just that. I like the drop. I think she can be a little bit closer than she has been in the past for Granite and Mojica. I have no real confidence in the 4 and 11, Jim. As we go ahead and bring up our ticket here, you'll see how I feel about this last race. Let's talk about your ticket first. I'll read it off again for the people that are going to be listening. Jim's late pick 4 ticket. Again, this is for Friday, ladies and gentlemen. For Friday, $25,000 guarantee pick 4 in the kitty at Hawthorne Racecourse. 4-5-8-9 with 4-5-6-8 with 1-5-7 with 4-11. Nice $48 ticket, Jim.
The cool thing about it, you only have to beat a couple of favorites to really get a nice return. Your favorite probably comes in that last leg. I think you have vulnerable favorites in races 5, 6, and 7. So because of that, White Lies definitely vulnerable. Marine Loves Frank vulnerable. And then you'll have to see what you get out of race number 5. See how the track plays. Like you mentioned, Howard, 2 things that happen. If you get that wind out of the west and it's a headwind into the lane, it's a little bit more of a front end track. If it's a crosswind like we've seen the last couple of days out of the south, and it probably won't because it's going to get cold, kind of changes the complexion of the race too. But I think you go deep early. Even if you catch some 4 or 5-1 shots there, you should be in pretty good shape going into that last leg.
I have similar thoughts here with my ticket. I'm going 4-5-9 with 4-6-8 with 1-7-9 with 2-4-11 for the slightly unusual $40.50 ticket there. Jim, I think 4-11 are the 2 horses they use on the end, but like I said, I have zero confidence in either one. I'll throw in the 2, and also we didn't really talk about the 9 and leg 3. Everyone can take a look at that horse. It's a speed horse. Again, I have a feeling it could be a bit speed favoring on Friday. Jim, it's gonna be very interesting on Friday. It's great that Hawthorne's putting 25K guaranteed, and you see some of these bigger meets now widening down. You see things slow down. Hawthorne is a great opportunity for people to play because there'll be bigger pools, and like you said, with the night racing and whatnot. And then also very quickly in a few weeks, we talk about 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks from this weekend, Jim. Here we go. NHC bids on the line. Big time $500, $400 live money contest. Jim, fire away with our promotion on that.
And here's the thing, you talk about NHC seats on the line. It's 10 NHC seats that are on the line over the course of the weekend. The cool thing that we do about our tournaments, Howard, it's real money tournaments. It's a live bankroll. Bet whatever tracks we're offering. Bet whatever wagers you want. If you want a multi-race sequence, that's fine. If you want to play win place, that's fine. Play your bankroll how you would play a day at the races, and then see how things unfold. If you don't have a good day Friday, you can come back Saturday, start fresh. Same for Sunday, but that's what we want to do. We don't want to charge an entry fee. We don't want any of that. We just want people to play the races. Any of our Club Hawthorne OTB locations, there's 6 of them that are out there. You can check it out on our website to make sure you find these locations. They're gorgeous too. They're very comfortable. If you're a sports bettor, some of these have the sports books there as well, so you can check that out too. And it's just one of those things where we've done very well with contest players. Contest players have done very well in the NHC coming out of Hawthorne as well. But again, you don't have to play Hawthorne. You can play whatever track is your focus. And I think that's the most important thing for any players that are looking to find a chance to get an NHC seat.
It's a lot of fun. I'm playing one of them. I'm probably Saturday. I'm not sure. I got to sharpen up my BC was not good, Jim. I fired very heavily into Cave Rock. And of course, I had Victoria Road on the other end of the double, of course. And I fired into Jack. It just wasn't my day. Just things, Golden Pal, blah blah blah. And my tournament ended, Jim, with a big win bet and doubles with Cyberknife, who lost by a head. It's just sometimes, Jim, you just have one of those weekends. I was bad, or bad luck, or however you want to look at it.
Bad luck.
You have to be honest as a handicapper. We can't sit on here, Jim, and say we crushed every weekend. We wouldn't be true to our viewers and listeners, and sometimes it's just going to happen that way.
Well, here's the thing that you got to find out too. You look at a lot of these multi-race sequences, and you look, and you could be so on the verge. It's 5-1 you catch, 5-1 you catch, 6-1 you catch. The one single that you expect to happen, it just doesn't happen. And maybe the horse runs second or runs third. And Jackie's Warrior got kind of drifted a little bit wider. Cave Rock went really quick and didn't look comfortable and still ran second. So that's the thing about it. Sometimes it's just unlucky more than anything. But I'll tell you, you feel at least that you're there because the horses were there late. Maybe they just didn't perform to get across the wire first, but it doesn't mean you really did anything wrong in the end. Maybe you're just a little unlucky.
Well, the best part about it is I was literally there, and just the atmosphere, Jim, was incredible. Jim Miller from Hawthorne Racecourse, we really appreciate you being on. We'll be on next week, of course, talk about more about Hawthorne and stake races. And one more time, folks, you don't have to be in town. You do have to be in person at the OTBs. But we know a lot of people are coming in the Chicago area over Thanksgiving to visit family and whatnot. And even if you're not, so drive in a few hours if you live in Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, whatever. Fantastic opportunity to get a chance to go to the NHC with these live money contests. And again, there's no minimums, there's no mandatories. You bet whatever you want, wherever you want for the entire day. So can't recommend those Thanksgiving Day tournaments enough. For Jim Miller, this has been Howard Kravitz, episode 204 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Thanks for joining us tonight. Good luck at Hawthorne, and of course, good luck also at Woodbine on Saturday. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.